Okay, so question from Ayan about the stages of skin burn. Okay, so you have your skin here, and it is about the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis. Next, you will have either muscles or directly bones. And sometimes you burn yourself, so it might become the result of friction, of heat. And similar processes happen when you cool down your skin or your body too much. It won't be called burning, but the processes are almost the same. So you sometimes might hear the burning with the eyes, etc. But the real ones coming from friction, heat, or chemicals. And in the first, let's call it not the stage, but first type, I don't remember the exact name in English. It will be the erythema. And erythema means that we have just a reddish part of the skin that was in the direct contact with something that made this friction with the heat or the chemicals. And this means that we have a lot of blood coming to this place. And this blood is needed for first repairing this part. Second, immune response. Third, removal of the waste. And usually when we have burn, in these cases, the cells, so let's say we have a cell that was struck by heat. So in this case, some part of it will be damaged. So the membrane will be damaged, and the cell kind of releases everything that it has outside and dies. And in this case, everything that is inside, as well as all the enzymes, etc., they get to this interstitial space, so into this environment. And many of these things that usually are inside, they are quite harsh, and they can initiate or increase the inflammation. So to kind of fight this inflammation, we need to remove everything from here. And this removal of waste and internals of the dead cells is one part of this process. And it is because we have blood here. Sorry. So that's why we have this erythema. So this is the first type, and usually we don't have distinct kind of bad consequences after this erythema. Eryth, it means, I guess, it's about reddish. So erythrocyte is, erythro means red, cyte means cell. So this is the first part. Second part would be, so you again have this epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis. And in this case, you will have the bubbles. And these bubbles usually are filled with the liquid, the plasma of the blood. And it is also about the, how I say that? So the cells in this place, so if you take this bubble, from here to here, we don't have cells at all. And to effectively fight all these dead cell waste, so everything that was inside goes outside. So we kind of flood it with the plasma. And in this case, we prevent everything from spreading into other sides of our skin. And we kind of pack it or block it inside this bubble. Usually after bubbles, we don't have also any visible changes of the skin. So we don't have scars, etc. So it is also in the epidermis. And of course, you will see this reddish part because it's again about blood. And you have to know that you should not damage this bubble, because if you do, it is the kind of easy access for bacteria, for parasites, and for fungi. And in this case, it will have the direct, so if you damage the bubble, these pathogens will have direct access to the dermis and hypodermis. And both of these spaces, they will have a lot of proteins and fats. And proteins and fats are very good for nourishing the microbes. So do not damage the bubble. So next stage would be that this is type 2. Let's call it type 2. I don't remember the exact name. So next one would be the third degree. I remembered. So you have your degree of burning. Okay. So in this case, you have your skin, then muscles, and then bones. So in this case, you will have bigger involvement. So some part of the muscle also is involved in the burning, and you will see black strap. So it's a burned stuff here. And usually whenever you have everything that is more severe than the bubbles, it means that you really need to go to doctor. And why you need it? Because a lot of cells here are involved in the process of inflammation. A lot of cells died. And also because of the damage of the skin, the subcutaneous or adipose tissues of hypodermis and muscles, they are in the access of microbes. Also, because we have a lot of these dead cells, our circulatory system cannot handle so much of the inflammatory factors. That's why we also need to help it with the special drugs that reduce the inflammation, etc. So anything that leads to the third degree of burning needs to be treated in the hospital. Just remember this, okay? So because this burning is very severe and people should go to the hospital. So the fourth degree is very close to it. So we have even bigger involvement. And in this case, we usually have the involvement of the bone. And in this case, for sure, person should be hospitalized because in this case, whenever we have the involvement of the bone, the chances that the person will have a shock and die afterwards are very high. So the resuscitation unit should take this person to really correct the inflammation process, etc. So third and fourth ones, they are most severe and should be treated in hospital. The problem with the severity in burning is also about the surface area of the body that was involved. So if you take first degree, and let's say this is a person, and we have, let's say, the first degree and 30% of the surface of the skin. So 30% of 2 meters, it would be 0.6 square meters, right? And this is a really huge amount of proteins that will be released in the circulatory system. And in this case, it will be a huge, pressure on the circulatory system, on our brain, because all of these inflammatory factors, they will start the inflammation everywhere, because let's say that we have 2 limbs being burned. And just imagine the amount of these cytokines that get to the circulatory system, and they are spread in the whole body. The kidneys, the liver. The liver, they will also suffer a lot of shock or heat, and it might also lead to death because of the percentage of the surface. If you take further degrees, like third degree, to have the same condition of the health, I mean, the same as 30%, we of course will need much less, like 2 or 3%, but in this degree, we will also have a very urgent situation that needs to be corrected in the resuscitation unit. Okay, so severity of the burning, not only in the degree, but also in the surface of the skin that was damaged. And same happens with the freezing. So we have almost the same symptoms, etc. But the problem with it, we don't have these black burned tissues. And instead we have the same dead tissues. And it is a little harder to define if this tissue is dead or not. So we usually assume that we have much more severe case than it is in real, just because in this case we will do the, we will administer the treatment that will help for sure. But if we underconsider it, so we underestimate the severity, we give them light drugs, and person dies because it needed kind of harsher drugs to correct the health condition. Okay.